It's me, Chucky. My mommy is the best. Super mom, love you, best. She helps mommy. It makes my stack. Go stack. I just might go back. You wait for the straw. Brush. Get ready for it's super slippery. I'm super strong.
Welcome to Healing for the Soul podcast, sponsored by Supermom Robin Stoltman, where every week I feature different guests to empower you to become the best version of yourself through different methods you may not have heard of or thought of. If you are ever looking for a virtual assistant, I highly recommend Sphere Rocket to delegate any business-related tasks like grow your social medias, book appointments, and much more that all businesses require, boosting your sales, productivity, and much more. The link to Sphere Rocket is at the bottom of this episode. And this is Season 6, Episode number 50. And today I have my guest, Kerry Blaser, who is a mother, a shaman, and recently published author of My Inner Heroine, Exploring Feminine Pain. She grew up in Southern California and has a master's degree in East Asia Religious Studies from the University of California at Santa Barbara. She takes a multidisciplinary approach to teaching people how to transform their emotional wounds into personal wisdom. And today we are talking about her book called My Inner Heroine, Exploring Feminine Pain. Thank you so much, Kerry, for being here with our audience. That's quite the mouthful for me.
Oh, I so appreciate you having me and your little one. I'm vibing.
It's all good. So who or what created like this need for My Inner Heroine, Exploring feminine tongue twister, like I said, mouthful.
It's a mouthful of a question and a really huge mouthful of an answer. So I'll take it slow. I had a traumatic childhood. Okay. I was born in 1970. My parents got divorced in 76. I have an older brother. My mom is an alcoholic. Well, she's since passed. My mom's picture. And my dad was a workaholic and probably with multiple women. And so I was raised in a very affluent town, but I was in an apartment and my dad had money, but then there was the arguing and my mom would argue about child support in front of me when I was 10 years old, before I was 10 years old. So I internalized that I don't deserve for a man to pay for me. But that set me up to work my whole life. I mean, that's kind of like, I'm a child and here you can imagine, I'm not paying. My dad, I'm not paying for my daughter. Oh, well, I guess I don't deserve. I mean, it's child logic, but this is how the trauma happens when the fights happen in front of children and the yelling and the screaming and then we have this kind of basic logic. Oh, they're the adult. I must be wrong because they're like, superhuman to kids, my parents, right? So tons of trauma. I met in my book, I talk about 6 men who I attracted into my life to mirror my wounds back to me. And I didn't know that the first 5 were leading me back to the 6th, who I know from my childhood. Like, I didn't know I was going all the way back home. But that's how it's kind of like, how people say you have layers of trauma? Those were my layers, and that all led me back to him. So he's my original hero. And so I had a traumatic childhood. I got a job at 12 and a job at 14. And then I went to college and I met my ex-husband in Tibet. He's Israeli. And it makes sense that why he was there. So a lot of Israelis travel after their army service. And he's IDF, Israeli Defense Force, Special Forces. And we met in Tibet 2 weeks after the Israeli Prime Minister, Yitzhak Rabin, made the historic trip to Beijing. So he has personal pictures of the Israeli flag and the Chinese flag together flying around Tiananmen Square.
Wow.
Because that Rabin was assassinated 2 years later in 95. And now we're right at, like, on November 4th will be the 30th anniversary of his assassination. And so I've only put those pieces together, like, really, oh, wow, like, wow, like we really met. So then I moved to Israel and we got married in 95 and moved to America. And then I started having 3 kids, Ethan, Yael, and Orly. And then my mom passed away on my 45th birthday. And that's when I started healing. That was 10 years ago.
Wow, that's a lot. Like, in that happened. So, like, what was the darkest moment? Was it in one of those relationships that transformed you, or like where was that darkest moment that really transformed what who you are.
Like where where I came back and said, I'm not having
Yeah.
it. That
Yeah,
was
yeah.
about 6 years ago when I attempted suicide. So my mom passed away on my 45th birthday, which was like her soul showing me how special I am to her, because we have my birthday together, right? And now her death day together. And so it's like, Kerry, you're this special to me. And that's a day I was intuitively told to accept my psychic gifts and process my childhood trauma. So I started learning how to surf the waves of life, how to go into my emotional pain, then come out, and then go in, because I was just in it. I was like, I had 35 years of debilitating lower back pain from like hating on my femininity, on my womb, on my hips, on my reproduction, and I was done. But why was I really done? My youngest daughter has an eating disorder, and she was in rehab, and it was our first therapy appointment. And she had learned in rehab that eating disorders are a maternal wound. They're like straight up telling her to blame her mom. And I'm not saying that I wasn't culpable, but it was a family problem. I don't live in a vacuum, right? But she and the therapist, they're all like blaming me. She's like, you're the reason I have an eating disorder. So on the way home, there's a lot of problems with therapy, a lot of problems. I started internalizing that darkness, kind of like I internalized my dad's darkness about money, right? This is kind of like, if someone calls me stupid, I don't have to internalize it. Only if I internalize it does it negatively impact me, right? So I internalized it. And then I went home and I heard in my head, my intuition told me, your kids would be better off with a dead mother than a live one. So I took all the trazodone and Klonopin and Soma and Ambien that I had, which was like just been like a lot, like 120 Klonopin, 60 trazodone, like how am I here? But this proves the soul is in charge. Like my soul kept me alive. But I had to let go so much crap to kind of find the wisdom for life and then bring it back as the healer that I am. And so I call it soul logic. It's kind of like, the universe is a mirror, soul logic. Surfing the waves of life is soul logic. Kind of changing the world is an inside job, soul logic. Like there's a way of things like 1 + 1 = 2, soul logic, right? There's knowledge and then there's wisdom, but because we've repressed femininity, which is the wisdom, we got a lot of knowledge, and then we, drop nuclear bombs, like we're not a better way to solve our problems, but there's the lack of the wisdom, so we need the wisdom to come back. So it's kind of like, I call the patriarch. My son's an Eagle Scout. Okay, I'm a very proud mama, and why is he an Eagle Scout? Because my first guy from my childhood was in Boy Scouts. So I knew it was important when my son, I didn't marry him. I want to cry. But like, my son's an Eagle Scout. Okay. So, but anyone knows Boy Scouts, if everyone's ever been to a camporee without women, lack of wisdom, that's when the fingers fly off. That's when things explode. That's when there's problems. You got a woman going, let's move the gasoline away from the black powder. Maybe we shouldn't have the fire. You know what I'm saying? I'm not, and it's like, it's like you put men on a desert island alone. They win without women. They're going to win the Darwin Award. Just saying, it's happened. There's a lot of stories. Okay, if you put women alone on an island, which they've done on Survivor, they don't fend for themselves because they're so busy being fair and caring about everybody's emotions. Okay. Women don't work without men. Men don't work without women. We need wisdom to be equal to knowledge.
That makes a lot of sense, because and like even the Bible, like in the Bible, like, God even refers to wisdom as her, like in the book of Proverbs. Proverbs is the book of wisdom, and I was like, it's a her. It's not referring to the man necessarily, because it just says her, like treasure wisdom, because she's more precious than rubies and diamonds. But like the first thing is to get wisdom and knowledge. So that makes sense, like with what you're saying, because you have to have both. You can't have just one.
No, you're out of balance, right? And so I'm a religious studies scholar, but I went east. I didn't go, I speak Chinese. I learned classical Chinese, not biblical Hebrew. So I don't know Christian history, but I've looked into it now with all this like coming out. And so in about 500 before the Common Era, there was it was common to refer to Yahweh and his wife Asherah, but then she slowly starts disappearing. And then around the 2nd century, we really see the rise of a monolithic masculine God. and then there's no feminine counterpart. Well, then we gave creation, which is obviously feminine. Men don't have wombs, right?
Yeah, no, men can't create. Yeah, men just
You
can't
know,
create. Like they can create logically, but they can't create.
a human, I mean, they participate,
Yeah,
but and creation is a
they
right
don't
brain
get the 9
activity,
months.
right? They don't, I mean, creation,
Yeah,
forgiveness, it's all right brain, that's feminine, right? So we're in the 2nd century with imperialism rising in Europe, in
yeah.
the Middle East, then they wanted a masculine, leader, and so the feminine got suppressed. And then women are still complaining today about women aren't equal, and women are intuitive. We're very intuitive, right? We're not equal.
Well,
But we have all these rights, but we're not equal. This is what they're talking about, is that the divine feminine is not equal to the divine masculine. And so when we make the divine feminine equal to the divine masculine, and then we mirror that in the household, she leads the emotional center. And he's the physical lead. Then she's valued to stay home and take care of the kids. And then we understand that she's the one that's teaching, like the feminine is the internal work, is the self-love, the forgiveness, the compassion, the nurturing, the mental health, right? Why are we have a mental health crisis? Because we repressed wisdom, and wisdom tells us how to relate to ourselves, which drives how we relate to others. So lack of wisdom equals mental health crisis.
and that makes
And
sense
hurt
because it's
adults,
intuition.
boys. What?
Because the intuition, the wisdom is.
Yes. And then
And
we don't write it down because it's in our hearts. Like, so when I was at graduate
yeah,
school, and undergraduate, I studied in China and everything, and I speak Chinese really well. And the male professors can't establish close relationships with the Buddhist nuns and all their wisdom. So they wanted me to go in and learn wisdom from the nuns because they couldn't teach me that my heart has that same wisdom. So I didn't get into a PhD program, which I'm grateful for, because I started having kids. I was 27, 20, okay, let's have kids, right? And I got, this is what I needed to see myself. Like we were talking before that we started recording, it's so amazing that how much we learn and improve and grow as adults after we have kids. Like how much
yes,
the kids show us, oh no, oh that, oh. That's what it's
constant.
like. Yes. But
And
necessary and helpful.
well,
Yeah.
yeah, it is, and that's why like some people, like for me, like growing up, like close enough in age, kind of just like one generation gap, a little bit, not much, but it's like still even in that, it's like my son, for example, he called me a witch, but with a B,
Mhm.
and
Yes.
when he had said that, he only said it the one time, and then I'm like, my initial was like to react. Like I wanted to do something. Like I really
Yeah.
wanted just to slap him. I'm just saying.
Right. Yeah.
But I did not because I'm like, you know what? I have self control. I've done the inner work. I know that he is reflecting back to me what he has seen. And so I'm like, his dad and his grandma hasn't done that like for a while.
Yeah.
However, when he said that, I'm like, it was an aha moment for how does he view what's going on and how he treated me. So it's like I couldn't get mad at him for it. But I have enough awareness because I've done the inner work that when that situation comes up, I was able to handle it differently. So I didn't do like what I initially wanted to do,
Yeah.
but I stopped and I'm like, God, please help me, help me, help me, God, please. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
And then I sat down and I'm just like, I'm not gonna deal with this. And it's like he was uncertain of like how I was gonna handle it. And I'm like, I'm just gonna hold back. Like have that self-control. And that's what a lot of people, they do not have self-control at all. But it's like when it came to this, I had the self-control. I had the ability to stop and turn this into a teaching moment as to this is how I'm being viewed. So if I'm being treated this way, I haven't been treated, like I said, that's far and few in between. But he still caught that because you said earlier about how when you were childhood trauma, you heard the fighting, you internalized it. So then when he's seen it like once, it's like, okay, this is how I need to be. And it's like, no, but he reflected that back to me of how he sees me being treated in the house. And then I just like back down. And it's like, no, I had the self-control because wisdom is having that self-control. It's backing away from the situation, evaluating how do you want to do things differently.
Yeah.
So in that, it's like that's a great example of how like the children bring stuff up for us to see. Or, there's other instances that happens too, like when they're picking on each other and it's like, okay, seriously, we gotta keep picking on each other. But it's like, I see some of those things.
Right.
So then, like when you're thinking about like the childhood trauma and then like how it affects the adult when they grow up.
Yeah.
And then the adults lately have decided not to have children. It's like they lose that. It's not so much well, it is humility. I'm like, yeah, you get humbled real fast when you got kids.
Yeah.
But they teach you so many lessons. And I swear, like every kid I have, it taught me something different I didn't know that I needed help with. They're like a one big giant mirror. Like,
Yeah.
I swear, just hook yourself up to a mirror all day long, and they'll gladly, like, all eight. Well, I can't speak for the one that can't talk quite yet. But the others, I very much can reflect, and I'm like, okay, this is an awareness I need to work on. That's all I'm looking at it as.
Like one thing to look at what my daughter said is she was mirroring my own,
Yes.
I agreed with her. So I attempted suicide. It wasn't like she was saying something that wasn't also resonant in my soul. It came out between us because it was in all of us, So yeah, no, well done. I mean, when my older daughter, because I have a boy and 2 girls, was about 12, I called her a bitch. Wrong for me to say it, and then later on, another time, she spoke to me very disrespectfully, and I told her, you're going to walk home because of that, and then she, like, as adults do too, she triangulated with the adults in her life so that she didn't get in trouble, and they dropped her off back at my house, right? So I had no support, and now she's back in my house. So does she have to listen to me? No. She doesn't have to listen to me. I mean, and I didn't have enough kind of to re-corral her, so I just shut down. And when we've like worked through, I mean, I talk to her all the time.
Yeah.
When we worked through it, I had to ask her the question. I said, Yael, she's a very special young woman. Like, put her in school early. She extremely accomplished, very, okay. She is not the average kid. But she's a kid, right? But she's learned triangulation. And so she's like, yeah, but I was a kid. And I'm like, no, I'm talking to you. Did you know how you say something and then like 2 days later you reflect and you're like, well, maybe I shouldn't have said that.
Oh yeah, that was on the thing, but with my son, like I said, calling me a witch. I was like, maybe I shouldn't have said that, but at the same time, I was like, maybe there's another parent out there that has experienced that is completely unaware their child's acting out because of them.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with the child. It really truly doesn't. And there's people that don't want to hear that because, one, they're not ready, or they've heard it but they don't want to accept it and look in the mirror and say, you know what, I'm the reason why my child turned out the way they did. My parents are great examples of that. They don't want to sit there and admit it, but at the same time, it's like, the faster you learn to admit it, you can forgive yourself. Then guess what? The health problem that's tied to that issue goes away.
Yes.
Fibromyalgia is a great example. All I had to deal with was the sexual abuse. I did not do it through talk crap therapy. I did it through hypnosis. And then I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, this is amazing, because I was so happy that now I get touched all the time by kids, and it doesn't bother me at all because it went away.
Yes. Our bodies mirror the wounds in our soul. Our bodies are constantly speaking to us, and it's a constant feedback loop for self-improvement. And so what I realized, so I repressed my relationship with my older daughter when she was 12. Gosh, so cute. And then, and now we're working through it. And so this was the challenge point for her to let go of the shame she had in herself, that she had spoken to her mother in such a way, which I knew was in her. I had to go gnarly with boundaries on her and no, you're going to look at that, and you're going to look, and you're going to look, and you're going to look, because she knew what she did. And she knew at the time that she was being very emotionally manipulative, but that was her modus operandum because her dad was fueling that fire. I mean, I was his narcissistic fuel. Borderline empath, whatever you want to call it. I'm masochistic. He was sadistic. and throwing all of his hate on me. And then I threw all my hate on me. And then I attempted suicide, but just so like parents understand that, our souls plan our lives based on our wounds. So no, I did not treat my daughter appropriately in that moment. Our souls planned that lesson for us to grow together because we have had a very traumatic lifetime together. I had to, like I say, if I want Mount Everest size wisdom, I have to take on Mount Everest size wounds, which I did, and my kids, there are very capable souls that help me get through so many things. And I've learned so much and they've learned so much. And it's just, it's an amazing process being a parent. And I'm hoping, you're doing an amazing job at changing the narrative around kids, but I'm hopeful. Like the past year, I've seen a lot more women are staying at home. There's a lot of jobs going away, and then companies aren't hiring women. Okay. And there's a lot more remote work. So, and then there's AI. So what I'm hopeful for is, I'm bringing my message out and other women and men support me as we kind of restore divine feminine as equal to divine masculine, and the feminine creates and the masculine orchestrates, and we mirror that in the home. More women can stay home. It doesn't mean they can't, I barely leave my house. I don't need to. I love being at home, and I wrote a book and I've done all these other things and I'm on podcasts. And now we can be women out in society from home with technology, yes. Right? And so, yes. Yay. And so, that's what I'm encouraging. And I'm with my daughters, especially my older daughter, she has her forever. And that's my always and forever. And it was amazing. So she didn't know that she didn't tell me that they had started calling each other their always and forever. And then we're at coffee and I was like, oh, but he's your always and forever. It's like, Mom, we just started saying that. That's my intuition. And we're just like girl, mom, daughter moment, and so I just want to give people hope that, watch as they have challenges with their children. As a parent, your soul's planned it. And I give my kids, if you need to take a 6-month break, take it. They're all in their 20s now, and so I need breaks, so take those breaks and just love yourself and trust the process that, over time, this is all going to resolve itself. But yeah, I didn't know, do you want to talk a little about the other guys in my book? Because we talked beforehand.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because that's what I wanted to get to too. But I'm glad that we brought up the parenting aspect of it too, because it's that's what a lot of people need is, you're gonna fail a lot as a parent. Yeah. I'm just saying it's normal. You're going to. Yeah. But it's also at that moment of where you're learning, you're growing. Yeah. Your child's growing too. That's one thing that I've learned. For example, I wanted to say too, and this may play into the one that you'd mentioned for Andrew Tate, is one thing I've noticed is how when children, they're learning different things, as a child gets more grown up, they're hitting that 15, 16 teenage years, they're not little forever. So how you treated them when they were little, teenage years are a reflection of your parenting, of how well or bad you did when they were younger. And then so when they grow up, you're going to get, because we're always growing, we're always evolving. So then when you, as a parent, you're getting older, they're getting older as well. But you get what I'm trying to say? When you're I'm 39, most people in my age group have already had their kids getting graduation right now. And they're 15, 16 years old. And I'm mine are all young, but I'm the dynamics is changing in that relationship all the time.
Yeah. And it's ever growing, yes.
Yes. And that's what I was getting at is one is getting stronger, the other one is getting weaker, because as you get older, you tend to get weaker. Yeah, and so then if you were one there's people that have hit their kids when they're younger. Yeah. Well, then as soon as that child is able to fight back and hit back, they can. Yeah. And I think that's what parents don't understand is you're going to get back everything you poured into that child when they were younger. You get it back in the teenage years. That's just one little example. Then it's going to go on later. So that's why I wanted to bring that up, because I know that you had mentioned the Andrew Tate that I've watched on YouTube, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's the exact same one. And you're like, yeah. I was like, okay, I want to know more about this. So tell me. about
Okay.
this one.
Okay, so I'm just going to back up into my book for a second because it's
Yes,
all in my
yes.
book. Okay. So my book, it starts 10 years ago, but within a couple of paragraphs, I quickly go to my suicide attempt because that's really when my healing took off and when I really, after my suicide attempt, when I kind of unearthed all this wisdom out of my heart. So after it was about 2 years between my suicide attempt, or a year and a half, and when I met who I call my first hero in my book. And I met him at yoga. And this was December 30th, 2020. And so at that point, I didn't even know every time I was being psychic. But through our interactions at yoga and texting, I never went on a date with any of these guys. So I haven't been on a date in 7 years. So, I've been in the throes of healing. Okay. I had a lot to see.
That's smart though.
Yeah, I mean, I kept attracting men with multiple women into my life. I'm like, well, maybe that ain't it. So the first guy, multiple women and a lot of challenge, and I had to accept that I'm equally as messed up as him, which you'll see in the book. Like I'm that messed up? No, I was that messed up. Okay. So a year and a half later, he left yoga and I was trying to figure out men with multiple women. And so I saw Andrew Tate's best friend on YouTube twice, Justin Waller. And he's 6'3", ginger, super good looking, damn, okay, 16 years younger than me. And this was in 2022. And so my intuition said, reach out and ask her questions about male sexuality. So I did. And he got right back to me in less than 10 minutes. I'm like, oh, sent me a voicemail. I'm like, okay. And then, a little flirting started. And so I really had a personal relationship with Andrew Tate's best friend. Now, what I didn't know at the time, that was June of 2022. Jason, who my guy from my childhood, is currently the head of global security at GoDaddy, former FBI. He got that job in May of 2022. And Andrew was censored on the internet. He's former FBI. You see what I'm saying? Because it felt like I came into Andrew's best friend's life 2 months before his takedown started. And, 6 months or so before he went to solitary confinement. And I'm a shaman who talks to souls and specializes in shadow work with men. You see, there's a plan, there's a way of things, right? I'm in lockstep with somebody, and so, but that was around the same time I took out my high school yearbook and saw Jason in there, who's 6 feet tall, super good looking, ASB president, damn, right? And I was like, he used to stare at me. He wanted to talk to me. Maybe there's a reason these multimillionaire, over 6 feet tall men are really into, maybe because my ex-husband, he was around my height, but, not that he extremely intelligent, IDF special forces, has his own accolades, right? But not this big guy I'm afraid of. Okay. So that's how I got into helping Justin and Andrew. So Andrew got canceled in August, and a couple weeks later, I reached out to Justin to give him some emotional support, and he immediately texted back, thank you, and his heart opened to me, and I landed in his heart. I mean, I would cry when I would hear Justin sing, and we never even talked on the phone. We were just DMing. That's how connected Justin and I were. And so when I landed in Justin's heart, I saw that Andrew's pain was in there, and I woke up the next morning, and this is rare for me, I could see Andrew's soul hanging out in my house. I'm like, so now my house had kind of become, I'm in Justin's heart, right? So now if he has pain in his heart, it's going to come in my waking reality. Does that make sense?
It would. Yeah, it does.
Yeah, because women, we do the emotional work. We're the center. So, okay, I'm in your heart. This is my job. I got a clean house. Okay. And you have Andrew's pain. So as long as Andrew's pain is in his heart, he doesn't have a clean house. So I had to help Andrew. And then over the next 2 days before I had the kind of final talk, I started being shown all these questions. You need to ask Andrew Tate why it was necessary for him personally to stomp around the globe screaming, I'm a man, when he's a 4-time UFC world champion. And, Bugattis and millions of dollars. Why do you need to tell anybody that you're a man when it's obvious to everybody else? Why wasn't it obvious to Andrew Tate? That speaks to childhood trauma. So the questions were gnarly like that. So I'm like, are we gonna be in the same space? He's a little bigger than me. I was scared. These were gnarly questions. But then my gifts with the shaman where I talk to souls. So all souls are constantly communicating, and physicists have proven this now, that we all have energy bodies, that we all communicate through our heart spaces. It's like our souls, we're all like individual CPUs, like the internet. Like Jason and I are kind of mirroring each other. I'm doing the spiritual, the 5D, network. And he's got security over the physical 3D network. You see what I mean? Like it's interesting.
I
like that.
do. Yeah.
It's but asking like that. So that's how I helped Andrew. So I helped him, and then I went back and helped Justin. But now I'm connected to Andrew's soul, and for our own reasons. And Justin and I stopped DMing after about 6 weeks. But then I had my first Fire Academy instructor waiting for me at yoga, who I started interacting with. And but then when Andrew was in solitary confinement, I would sit in my garage because I resonated. I had an energetic match with how isolated Andrew felt, because our external reality is a reflection of our internal reality and how we feel about ourselves. So my whole life, I haven't had very many friends because I was internally isolated. Like I resonate with a statue about a grieving parent where you see the head, the arms, no center, and then the legs sitting on a park bench. You just see through the person. That was me my whole life. Like I was just like, it was just gone for self-connection and a relationship connection. I just been on my own so much my whole life. But yeah, that's kind of how they came into my life. Like didn't see that coming. And then I resonate with Andrew Tate. And then, I got to tell my kids. I mean, my kids hated me for the first year and a half because I helped Andrew Tate. I'm in California. Okay. Like liberal, right? Like it took me about a year before I told anybody, because I'm like, oh my God. Oh shit. Okay. But then I made a YouTube channel in 2023, and then I started telling people, but my kids couldn't even talk about it with me because it triggered them so profoundly that I had helped a man. I'm like, well, he's more emotionally balanced now. Isn't that a good thing? But it was that profound for them.
Yeah, because I know, like, I've watched some of his stuff online, and I'm like, it's like one of the things he said, like, having a headache is like a good thing.
A headache?
Yeah, because that's like one of the videos that I've seen, like where he's talking like literally like a headache is a good thing. Like be a man and just like accept like, hey, you don't like need like the aspirin in that. You just need to be a man, accept that, hey, this is part of being a man. Like this is the stress. Like do something about it. And like some of his stuff, I'm like, it's right on. And at the same time, I'm like, he's also got the balls to say some stuff that most people don't want to say it, or they got to tiptoe around it. And it's at the same time, like he's got that balance now. Like you can tell that in his videos.
He's a lot more balanced than he used to be. A lot. I mean, it's all me, obviously. No, I'm just kidding. But but no, I mean, I'm like, I can help balance a man who, like, his dad was a grand master at chess. Okay. So he's extremely intelligent, which you have to be as a fighter, and so physically capable to be a 4-time UFC world champion. The man knows a few things. The man knows a few things. I ain't saying, but what I see as a collective, like all of our souls, what are we working our way out of? Okay, so way I see it is, we repress healthy femininity. Feminism, while I'm not calling feminism healthy femininity, draws attention to the problem, which is we're not valuing femininity. Okay, so if we can put femininity back up there, right, next to masculinity, then men will have a healthy woman to rely on. Because you got to imagine, if the center is out of balance, then the men coming out of that center are way out of balance. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, because if we think about laws of physics, right? So when I got a hold of laws of physics explain energy, and we're energy bodies as souls, let's go, right? Help me understand like what's going on. So when we repressed the feminine and men, took more power, then it was like the more women you had, the more power you had. And we weren't valuing the feminine. And so, okay. And then women, we had to figure ourselves out to go, no, this is our place, right? We tried going out of the center. It doesn't work out. We're all unhealthy. Nope. We need to return to the center. A lot of women are figuring that out now. Andrew Tate helped with that. But, his kind of one man, multiple women solution, which him and his friends all purport, is, historically based when men see themselves as more valuable than women. But why do men not value women? Well, women aren't kind of exposing that out of their hearts yet. We weren't ready yet to value women in this way, to give them the credit for the wisdom and men take credit for the knowledge. We weren't there yet. So we developed over all these lifetimes, all these codependent attachments between our souls. And I know Christianity says one lifetime, but it's my experience that we have multiple lifetimes, which this kind of understand this makes sense. And if you look at genetically, historically, 90% of women have procreated, but only 40% of men have procreated because men are dying in wars. Well, why are men dying in wars? Well, lack of wisdom, okay? Like lack of balance. If we all accepted that we're souls having a human experience, then, we're all divine, then we interact with each other completely. And we know that me killing your body doesn't destroy your soul. Your soul always is going to come back. So you're not resolving the issue by destroying the body. You're just acting unaware. So anyway, so now we're kind of working our way out of this one man, multiple women problem, like conundrum that we created because we don't understand ourselves. So that's why you see dating apps where all the women are after like a Justin Waller. Well, okay, he's really clear that he's never going to be monogamous. But you want monogamy, and then you go for that, and then he has you pay to come see him, and you pay to see a man, and this is healthy and balanced. Do you see? But it's all of these wounds, all this lack of awareness. Like you have so much awareness, your self-control. As women, we didn't have it yet. So what I'm hoping is that with the kind of resurgence of healthy femininity, women return home. Men become more balanced, and we embrace a healthy nuclear family, which is a bedrock of the stable society. There's tons of scientific evidence on that. And when I say a healthy nuclear family, I'm going to be clear. Like I mean a heterosexual, healthy nuclear family, because I know I'm going to get asked this question, as is, what about homosexual, bi, trans and all that? And I'm like, okay, I had to dive deep because of my kids, because of where I live. Like I have done one book signing, and it was at a romance and women's literature bookstore, which I loved. I'm like, it made me accept all my books, a love story, and but they are very strong in the LGBTQ community. So I had to, I've been left my whole life until I voted Trump last year. So I had to get right with myself. I'm like, okay, well, anything that isn't in alignment with a healthy nuclear family is a wound. Because like if you think like if a gay couple wants to have a kid, they use a surrogate. Well, now we're knowingly inflicting a primal wound on an infant for their desires. Okay, now I mean it's hard to say, and I'm not, but we hold space for wounded souls. Of course, I'm wounded. We're all wounded, and they come out in different ways. But is that like God's plan? And this, and like we're becoming? No, it's like we need the opposites to make our energy fluctuate. Fluctuating energy is a live energy. No opposites, no energy fluctuation, no life. And so
that makes sense.
It's logical.
Well, yeah. And for me personally, I'm like, I do what the Bible says. It's like, it doesn't say you're supposed to accept it. It says you hate the sin, but not the person. And that's where society cannot, for the life of them, accept that the behavior that group has is unacceptable.
Yeah.
There's a reason why they cannot procreate. There's a whole reason for it. And then if you really, really deep dive into the culture that they've got, it's manipulative.
Oh yeah.
It's very much controlling. It's very much do what I say. It's very cultish. And then not only that, you dive even deeper into it, and it's like, because if any of them had actually seen a talk therapist, which if they have, they get paid by the government. If it's something that you're born with, then can explain to me why I've been successful in using something like hypnosis to get a person to undo that behavior. You can't, because it's a trauma-related response as to why say that they're attracted is because they're running from that sex that hurt them. That's why it is.
Yeah.
There's no other reason for it, but talk therapy isn't going to address that because they don't know how to deal with the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind runs the show, not the conscious mind. As much as people want to think that talking helps, it does not help, because all you're doing is talking about the problem, making it expand. Where your focus goes, attention flows. It makes it bigger. So that's all the talk is doing, is it's making the problems that these people believe that they have bigger. But if you use something like hypnosis and NLP, shrinks the problem. There's so many tools. That's why I love what like Richard Bandler and John Grinder created the NLP off of a Engineer Satir, because it's like, there's a reason. Because like you said, all the problems are stored in the nervous system. The second you get rid of the problem in the nervous system that had the problem to begin with, the problem disappears. You can't even find it. Like, I've seen that with my clients, and I've seen it within myself. That's why I'm like, why do you think the fibromyalgia went away? There's no cure, but there is. It's inside your head. Yes. And you have to deal with it, and people just don't want to. And it's just like, when people think, oh, you don't got to hit rock bottom to change. Yes, you do. You have to hit rock bottom.
You gotta hit that
and everybody's
bottom of the
rock.
valley.
Yes, and everybody's rock bottom is different. In fact, one of the things I liked is like the heartbeat. That's what the journey's like. Why do you think it's a heartbeat? Because the heartbeat lines go up, down, up, down, up, down. That's our life. Up, down, up, down, up, down. Just like the heartbeat. Our lives mimic our heartbeat for a reason. Because if they stayed flat at any time, you'd be dead.
Well, right. And so totally. So in the heart, the electromagnetic field around the heart is 5,000 times stronger than the brain. And the heart sends far more signals to the brain the other way around. And the soul communicates through emotions, which is our nervous system. So our soul is coming out our heart and all the, connections. And this is where, so yes, we have this knowledge, but, how can I say?
As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. That's why, like, whatever you think is really coming from your heart. Because you speak exactly. That's why they wrote all the songs, like "A Dream Is a Wish Your Heart Makes" from Cinderella. I'm just saying, like, that's the reason for all of that. It's our heart. And then, like, heart math, they've done the studies that have proven 6 feet out we can affect another person. Why do you think that COVID was 6 feet? Because 6 feet away, that's that breaking that electromagnetic field, and they can see that with the heart. Like, you can affect another person's energy. Like we are, like, that's why, like, some people you jive with when you're on a podcast, and some people you just don't, or like not even a podcast, in like real life. It's like, why? It's just like, you feel, yes, and that's what you're feeling all the time. It's like that energy. That's why there's energy vampires too.
Because like we're flowing, and that we've kind of unearthed similar wisdom in our souls. It's like, this flow, and this, it's not like, I didn't decide that the universe is a mirror. And this is why talk therapy doesn't work, because the universe is a mirror. And I just had this whole thing out with a psychologist over email. Like I told you, I go on podcasts, and I know it's a healing moment. And so we get on the podcast, and I start opening up, and he starts trying to control me and cutting me off from the get. And I'm a spiritualist, right? And so I'm sharing my 6 divine feminine self-love strategies, which is all about the universe as a mirror, love hierarchy, changing the world as an inside job, like, nothing that I don't need you. I don't need the psychologist, right? And so he was very controlling. I'm like, can you let me talk? Can you let me talk? For 10 minutes, then we got off the phone. And then I was called to send an email. And then he kept trying to psychoanalyze me and would never answer my questions. I'm like, if psychology is so successful, why are we having a mental health crisis?
That's what my thing is. Then, another thought that I've had recently was like, okay, so we've got, like, if the mental health talk therapy actually worked, people would stop their crap. I'm just saying, straight out flat, that they would. The pharmaceutical company would not even need to exist. I'm just saying, because it's the truth. You can see it. They've done case studies on it. There's plenty. Oh my God, there's over thousands and hundreds of thousands of case studies done on people to show the placebo effect, hint, 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 with pharmaceuticals, is real. They've done it because our belief is so damn powerful. We can create something, like, our mind can be our biggest asset or our greatest liability. And most people only know how to use their mind as their greatest liability. Like, even like with the food stamp thing right now. Like, my thing, I'm like, I'm on it. But you know what? Guess what? Here's what I'm looking at it as. I'm looking at it as, this is a huge opportunity to use all the tools that I've taught, all the things that I know about me, using all the things that I'm like pre-planned for success, because there's a lot of whiners and complainers and people that hate rich people and all this stuff. I'm like, you know why the rich people get rich? Is one reason, because they know how to use money and the poor people don't. I'm not saying that I'm not, like, financially it is, but I'm not that mentally, because the people that are going to be giving, like, there's businesses that are giving, okay? That's a tax write-off. And the general public has zero concept that that's a tax write-off. So what's that business going to show? That they've made less money. Well, if you made less money, guess what? You got to pay less in taxes as a business owner. And people are they're not very bright in thinking, hey, if you have a business, you're actually creating more money by helping out somebody because that's considered a loss. Well, that's considered a loss. Well, then I made less money in my business. Therefore, now I'm able to keep more of my profits.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that's like how it works. But people generally don't know these things because they don't ever take the time. They just believe whatever they put into Chat GPT spits back what they want. Her children, like everything like reflects back. It really does. So I'm excited for this. It's like, it's not that it doesn't scare, but it's like, it's a great opportunity. If you really think about it, to show what yourself, what you're made of, that you can do it. You don't need the help. I'm just saying,
That's such a positive mindset, seeing a challenge as an opportunity. And that's what I teach, because that's what it really is.
It is.
Our souls, I'm having a human experience, so I can see and experience myself in every moment as a constant feedback loop. When I see selfishness outside of me, that's my soul showing me my own selfishness. When I see beauty outside of me, that's my soul showing me my own beauty. And if everyone approached life like that, we wouldn't need therapists. But part of the problem with therapy is it's really social activism is what it's become. And they want to tell everybody what to do, right? And then they don't want to trigger anyone because that disrupts their business model. Like sure I hear another I've been on like 50, 60 podcasts. This is why, okay? So I'm on another podcast with therapists, and she asked me about my soul's purpose. So, I'm between a mother and a grandma. So my soul's purpose is to make a healthier society for my grandchildren and my children, because I will be gone one day. And I was like, and if, trans kids is an Armageddon, I don't know what is. And I went off, like, we're chopping off kids' genitals. She's like, oh, you're going off track. I have to stop you right there. And we talked about it afterwards. Why? She has trans clients that might hear that and then not want to see her. So my authenticity, my kind of sharing my heart was cut off because she potentially might lose money. So her potential loss of money was more important than our conversation, our relationship. Do you see what I mean? So we talked earlier that our problems, we put money before relationships. We put convenience before well-being. And this is a prime example of being done by a therapist. And she cut me off again when I said, I've helped 2 fire academy instructors. I'm like, oh, well, the guys that, there's female firefighters. Oh, right, because I'm a dumb fucking idiot who doesn't know it. And you're sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine.
But but you see how in the universe is a mirror. So those were her own insecurities being projected onto me. And then she was trying to hold me responsible to her insecurities. And she's the therapist? Yeah, no.
That's why.
And then she invited me to a summit and wanted to try to control what I would say or wouldn't say. And I said, no, I can't be on your summit. I'm very intuitive. I'll say what I need to say. I haven't brought up yet on this podcast that, this year I've had to climb my ladder of self-belief, which is like vertical ladder. First publish my book, then to accept all the signs and synchronicities that my soul is the same soul as Mary Magdalene. I mean, I even had to Google around my birthday. My birthday is June 25th, direct opposite of December 25th. And did Jesus have a wife? Because I went east for religion, not west. And I never went to church. So I didn't know about Mary Magdalene. I think I've heard the name. I saw the Da Vinci Code. Okay. Wasn't in my worldview. I had to go that kind of basic with it. And so I had to accept all those signs, synchronicities. And then I did that in September. And then at the end of September, I didn't know what was happening. But when I kind of wrote down my 6 divine feminine self-love strategies and made several YouTube videos on a Friday and a Saturday, Shabbat, I didn't know. And then I had a huge enlightenment experience. I'm like, oh my God, the rapture. It just came, the rapture. The second, it was just coming out of me to share that my soul had, through an enlightenment experience, had made a direct soul-to-soul transmission of the second coming. And then I had to research it. So the next day on the Sunday, my intuition said, okay, look up Shabbat between Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, and Yom Kippur, Day of Atonement. I'm like, oh, that's Shabbat Shuvah. What is Shabbat Shuvah? Shabbat of return. Oh, that's the main day for self-reflection. And that's the day that I made a video the first time of my 6 divine feminine self-love strategies, which is all self-reflection. So it's just like my souls, I was saying our souls have a plan, right? So,
Yeah.
and I had learned through my own enlightenment experience from the year before, because I had an enlightenment experience, but I didn't know what it was because didn't learn in master's program, because they sure as heck weren't teaching me. I had to figure out that enlightenment is an emotion, and they're Buddhists are mostly men. You guys are claiming an emotion. We could talk about that too. So I had to figure it out. And I went to Dr. David R. Hawkins, who has the map of consciousness, where he measured that we have an energy bodies.
Yeah.
And that when we feel shame, our soul emits 20 hertz. Fear is like 80 hertz. Love is 500 hertz. Enlightenment is 700 to 1,000 hertz. I mean, I lost 12 pounds in 3 days. The first time I experienced enlightenment, goes like for 3 days. Like that's how much energy I was, processing. So I had to learn that when we experience enlightenment, our souls open up attractor energy cells to influence all of mankind. And that's how, when someone experiences enlightenment, people usually want to know, oh, what did you learn? Right? This is where this kind of energetic resonance comes from, because when I open my heart, because we're all connected, then it helps everyone else open their hearts. So every time I experience enlightenment, it benefits me, and it unveils more wisdom to the collective. But that's not just true for me, that's every single soul. So this is why changing the world is an inside job. Because when you have wounds, you don't understand that Jews are attracting all this hate into their lives because they hate themselves. You don't understand that Islamists are also attracting all this hate into their lives because they hate themselves. Now, the question is why? And to help them hold up the mirror to themselves. Like, why does the whole world, there's so much anti-Semitism now, need to reflect self-hate back to Jews? Well, I got a Sephardic Jewish last name. I met my ex-husband in Tibet, right? I've lived in Israel, and Bazaglo is a Sephardic Jewish last name. They've been discriminated against by the Jews, by the Orthodox Jews and like the Ashkenazi Jews.
Okay.
That's one kind of internal strife in Israel. Yitzhak Rabin reveals another internal strife between the Orthodox Jews and the secular Jews. Secular Jews fight in the war. Orthodox Jews don't go to the Israeli Defense Force. They stay home and pray. I'm like, that's women's work. I'm serious. So if we look at Israel, they have a lot of internal strife, a lot. So that speaks to self-hate, right? Then you look at their external reality. Their external reality in their own country is a lot of strife. And then you look at what's coming in is even more strife. What are they healing through? Okay, so like I wrote, so I had the experience on Shabbat Shuvah, Shabbat of Return. That's the second coming. I started doing the research, right, into Shabbat Shuvah. And then also that's when I learned that was it Jeremiah 31:33 and Hebrews 8:10. I'm not I don't know the Bible. I've just done research recently that there's prophecies that the Messiah would come in September of 2025, Hebrew year 5786. Not going to know when or where. There's no prophecy for Shabbat Shuvah, Shabbat of Return, right? And there's also prophecy, a covenant written on our hearts, bypassing scripture. You see? So like as an enlightenment experience, this is the value of femininity, to the value what wisdom brings peace. Because when I open my heart and my heart is peaceful, then everyone's in my heart and they all make better decisions. But when women don't take care of their hearts, which we, the past 2,000 years, it's been a patriarchy, right? We're not taking care of our own hearts, we're not taking the men's heart. Then we get we get the Darwin Award left, right, and center, which, we've had that, left, right, and center. And so, so that happened, right? And then I'm pulling out this wisdom of peace plan came out of me in October. So that's why I'm kind of analyzing all this. That's why I picked up on Rabin. But here's what I've been shown for the wisdom of peace plan, because change is an inside job. Each of us has to recalibrate our nervous system with self-love and not self-hate. So we attract loving, compassionate, enlightening experiences into our lives, as opposed to what Israel's doing right now, which is the self-hate experiences. But then I got to reflect, okay, well, I've already accepted that my soul is the same soul as Mary Magdalene. I've already accepted the second coming, people can agree or not, happened at the end of September. And now I'm on this wisdom of peace plan, and I'm being shown that the Jews call themselves a chosen people. What were they chosen to do? Were they chosen to lead us to create heaven on earth? Were they chosen? And I'm asking that question to Jews. What were you chosen for? Okay, I'm going to give you a potential thing, an opportunity for growth. The Jews need to lead us through healing, and by them doing it first, admitting that all of their self-hate, and we can get into what that potentially is driving their kind of internal and external challenges. Okay, so then I had to start asking questions about the crucifixion, right? Because that brings Mary of Magdalene and Jesus Christ together.
Yeah, it brings all of it. Yeah.
It brings, all of this up, now at the time of self-reflection for Jews when they were Jewish, right? So it makes sense. There's all this coming out now. So I had to ask, we talk about, we attract experiences into our lives to see ourselves, right? And for self-improvement purposes. So like kids, self-improvement, right? So I had to ask.
Fly.
It's in Hebrew, you call it nudnik. Nudnik is like annoying. Nudnik. Why did Jesus attract the crucifixion, in front of his pregnant wife on Shabbat? And Shabbat is when you honor the feminine to see and understand himself. Why would a man, you know what I'm saying? Like, let's look at it like if Jesus, why did Jesus need the crucifixion? To see himself. He's a person, he's a soul, he's got wounds. I know I'm kind of going out of the Christian narrative, but I hope I'm not being disrespectful.
No, you're fine. It's just like I'm not familiar like outside of that. So no, you're fine, because I know we all have our different beliefs on that part of it. But I mean, like the Bible also doesn't, like one of the things, for example, like when you talked about like we know energy doesn't die. But there's like some things that the Bible does not, like it alludes to, for example, of not reincarnation. I believed it as a child, and I'm like, I don't know. Anyway, like it alludes that like we're not, like our souls, they keep living, like we've lived past lives.
Yeah.
And so it's like the Bible, it kind of alludes that, because like John the Baptist and then like Jesus. And it's like some of this stuff that I've been reading, I've been figuring out, I'm like, it doesn't really fully explain. But it's like, how can we explain, like, for example, little kids remember being killed in the World Trade Center? So that's why I said it's fine, because I understand, like, we can't explain this stuff. We just can't. There's no way to explain it. That's why I'm like, why does past lives work when you do it with hypnosis?
Right.
It's like literally like, why do these, they know medically, they've done the case studies. Why does it work? And it's like, we don't know why. So you're fine on that. I'm just saying, like, the Bible leaves it at like, we don't really know, like what we know is that he was here. We know why he was crucified, was to pay for our sins. But then it's like, it doesn't really explain. That's where the Da Vinci Code, like, kind of like threw all these things in here, like the questionable variables of like, I don't know, but we do know that there's a rapture coming. Like the Bible's got that laid out clear, and we are in it, but there's no set date time. We don't know when it's coming, but we do know that there's going to be people, I think, if I remember, there's going to be like 3, I think, false prophets that were coming before Jesus himself came back. And it's like, if you look at the world, it's so full of anger, full of hate, and like the self-hate, like what you said, that's what we are, that's what they're attracting. And it's like, why, like Hitler as an example, why was it okay when he was doing the socialism, but now it's okay out in California, New York, Minnesota? I'm just saying, like,
it's the cognitive dissonance.
Yes, and people don't see that it's exact same thing. Socialism is not good. It's communism. Communism is very, very bad. I think it was like in the 60s or the 70s. I can't remember. I just know it's before I was born.
And millions have been killed from communism. Like, I have master's degree in Chinese. So I studied Chinese history. Like millions and millions are killed. Like, look at Cuba. Like, they don't have much food. There's no money, and so, right. And so these are like, when we talk about self-reflection, like I have to ask myself, why did I attract my suicide attempt in my life?
Yeah.
Same question as I'm asking from Jesus's perspective, and is, why would a man need to be crucified in front of his wife, which came out in the Nag Hammadi text that were found in 1945. So a lot of gospels were found, like the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. One copy was found in 1896, and then in Egypt, and they found a lot more in 1945. A lot of the other gospels that weren't included on the Council of Nicaea,
like the
in
Dead
the 4th
Sea
century.
Scrolls.
Where things were excluded. Like we talked about, why did they start repressing the feminine and creating a masculine only God? All of these texts are, expressing this, like you don't need a church, that you don't need an institution. Well, if you don't need a church and institution, then there goes the control structure. There goes the
yeah, 100%.
indoctrination. And I'm saying, churches have done good things, of course they have, but you can also look
Yeah.
at what did early Christians teach and Gnostics teach, as opposed to, or the Ethiopian Bible or the Orthodox Bible. There's a lot of different versions, but this is why I'm asking that. It's a self-reflection that how do I dive into my subconscious without a therapy session to kind of get me going in the right direction? And so we could ask that, why at the time was he supposed to be, valid? Because he was killed on a Friday evening, right? That's Shabbat in Judaism. That's the woman of valor poem. That's the Shinikah. That's the feminine. Why did they choose to kill him when he would be honoring his wife? And I know, like Chris says, that he's, but there's a lot of reasons why that narrative changed. And so, that's the question I ask, and that's a question I want Jews to get to the bottom of, because he was revealing a lot of problems, financial problems in the temple. Jews were.
Yeah, he flipped over tables. He'd get
was
mad
like,
because you're making it into robber's den.
Yeah. And so, and so then we kind of have problems with ruling class Jews killing their own Messiah. Do Jews have a wound that they killed their own Messiah? They're putting money before relationship. That's one question I have. Because, and I'm Buzoglo.
Well, yeah, you look at how many people value their jobs and say they don't got love of money. Bullshit. You do too. I'm just saying. If you love money more than your health, more than your family, because a job's more important, I get that it puts food on the table. I get that 100%. But that's where the love of money is. That's really loving money more than yourself and more than people. Because if it was flipped, you'd be, I care more about my family than about this job. I care more about myself than showing up to work sick. And that's COVID. Oh my gosh. That didn't teach people anything for very long at all whatsoever. Because people are like, oh, I won't go to work because I'm sick. Well, now they go to work sick. That didn't show anybody anything at all whatsoever. I'm just saying on that aspect, they were valuing themselves, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, this is like lame. I can't do this. Too much work. I'm just saying, like, that's what it felt like. As a collective.
So this is kind of like, the wisdom of peace plan. I'm trying to get the Jews to self-reflect on why they've attracted so much hate into their lives, which we all know it's a tremendous amount of hate. Then you kind of move over to the Americans.
Weird.
Yeah, but that is, they are attracted, since we're souls having a human experience, they are doing it to themselves. So they got to figure it out so it can stop. So this whole two-state solution is never going to work. Why is it never going to work? Because in the Islamic text, it says all Jews have to be killed so their Messiah will return. Well, that's a terrorist organization. That's not a religion. Like, let's all be honest with ourselves, okay? But Islam, saying they have been living with the Jews for almost, thousands and thousands of years, they probably have a point about why they hate them, like if the Jews participated in killing Jesus, what else have they done? Like the Jews are not innocent here, is what I'm saying.
No, well, yeah, that makes sense. Like on certain things, like I haven't even thought this far at all. Like, but it does bring a lot of good points, because like World War II, that was all about Hitler taking out the Jews. But he had his own issues with Jews because his mother's doctor was a Jew. And his mother died when he was like 9, I think, if I remember right. That's why I'm like, I love to study people. I'm just saying, like, if you study not just the psychopaths, but if you study like the successful people in business, even, because that's where I've mostly studied is the people in business. It's like they've all got that certain points, and that's why I bring up like about Hitler, is because it's like he like how I always wanted to know like how he was able to control a country. Like, how did he do it? COVID. That's a great example. You made one party feel superior than the other. The ones that were vaccinated, they were the ones that were the right ones. They were the ones that were all that in a bag of chips. They were the ones that could go do things. It's no different than the sneeches with stars on their bellies and the sneeches without the stars on their bellies. And now we're some sneeches with belly stars and some of us without bellies. Some of us with stars and some not. And it's like, it's just funny, but it's like history's repeating itself consistently. And
totally.
That's why I'm like, people just, it's just amazing. Like, one of those episodes that is so extremely deep that you gotta like listen to it like probably like another 2 to 3 times just to really get into like the nuts and bolts of like, oh my gosh, like this is.
I appreciate your ability to go deep. You've done so much work on yourself. So you're,
I'm tired
very
of
Christian, and I'm over here saying, I have a lot of signs of synchronicities that I'm Mary Magdalene's soul and that Jesus Christ over there, and you're open to it. Like, thank you. Like, You're a soul, I'm a soul, you're a mom, I'm a mom. And whether you agree with the signs or not, like really doesn't matter, because we're both here to figure out how to love ourselves, love our family, love our community, and create, like, this is the way I see it, is that, physically, Earth is heaven. Like, I live on the beach in Southern California. Like, if California's in heaven, like, I don't know what I'm talking about, or the image behind you. But what's hell on earth are our relationships, starting with our relationship and ourselves, And so what I see happening is, slowly but surely, as souls having a human experience that are reincarnating, is that we are going to create heaven on earth together, and that this is heaven. And when we accept that we're souls having a human experience, and that our only problem is that we do not know how to operate our souls, through self-reflection, through hypnosis, through self-care, through, the true self-love. I'm going to go on vacation and tell everybody. That's not self-love.
No, and neither is getting your hair and nails and all that done. It's doing the actual real work. That's why, another reason why the rich people keep getting rich is because they've done the actual real. And when you've done the actual real work, it's like you said, it's like that enlightened being of, like, you're aware that energy, like, you're what you want. You're like, you're holding it back. You're the one that's creating everything. That's why I'm not sorry, but that's why I love hypnosis so much, because, like, we are the problem. We're the ones that created it. It was our beliefs that we picked up from other people.
Yeah. Like my dad or my kid. Yeah.
So
that's the only problem.
Well, yeah, and that's why I'm like, it removes you from the problem, because I'm like, the first step in the awareness project is, I think, is realizing that we are creating. Like, we're the ones that are creating. Like, we're constantly creating. So what's the best way for our audience to get in contact with you?
Okay, so I have a website, kerryblaser.com, and I see people by donation only. And so please, if you want to have a 2-hour session, we do meditation, we do drumming. I'll teach you self-reflection techniques, and we'll talk. And then, but it's not talk therapy, because I ask questions. I don't say, well, you are, no. How's your relationship with your mom? What did you do last summer? How's your relationship with your son? Another really amazing technique that I just learned through, like, an Instagram post, it's Carl Jung, and he's all over my book, is to hold a picture, is to look at a picture of yourself for like 10 minutes and just write down everything that comes up for you. And I promise it'll be a lot of negative. And that just gives you a laundry list of things to work on, and you don't need a therapist for that. So there's some tips.
Well, that and the energy is stored in the picture. I had somebody on my podcast a while ago, about 3-4 years ago, and they had said that about, like, all they need is a picture, like, your picture holds energy. And I'm like, no. But the more work I've done, I'm like, oh my.
Like, the universe is a mirror. So I recommend looking at the same picture for like a year and see how that picture changes, in your perception over time. Because, like, I look at a picture of Jason and I was like, why is he upset? Oh, he's happy today. Oh, it's the same picture, but it changes because my perception of him changes. Do you see what I mean? It's a fascinating.
Maxwell Maltz. I'm trying to remember. Maxwell Maltz said, you will never outperform your self-identity, or your own, it's not the self-identity, it's your own self-worth or something. I'm trying to remember, but, like, I know the quote, and I'm purposely not there.
Self-limiting beliefs or something, like, you never outgrow.
You'll never outperform your own self-image, is what it is. Maxwell Maltz.
Yes.
Because the self-image is made up of the self-identity, and then it's made up of your self-belief. That's how you create your identity.
I love it.
So no, it's Anyway, so they can get a hold of you at your website.
My website, and then my book's on Amazon, My Inner Heroine, Exploring Feminine Pain, and I'm writing a second book, My Inner Heroine, Unveiling My Soul, where I'm going to share all of this, like, Mary Magdalene's Soul, the Second Coming, the Wisdom of Peace Plan, and all the history around my last name being Buzoglu and the Israeli infighting. And so, kind of the picture of, here we are, let's heal.
Awesome.
Thank you.
As always, I just want to thank you for your time and energy while listening to today's episode of Healing for the Soul podcast. Be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe to Healing for the Soul podcast wherever you get your downloads, you're listening to your podcasts, and keep coming back for more episodes. Thank you, everyone, for your time and your energy while listening to today's episode of Healing for the Soul podcast, which also can be found on YouTube.